So yeah, we're starting off. James, you started to hint at it. Alexander Wang, the CEO of Scale AI, started off the day and really framed a conversation for the whole conference, which is, have we hit sort of a wall? And obviously a wall, is a somewhat broad term, but he basically
Can you
said,
explain the wall for people? Because I feel like we're using this vernacular.
Yeah.
Insiders here, but what is the wall?
And the wall is this idea that foundation models aren't going to get smarter. That fundamentally everything in AI world depends on sort of the power of models. And the ways that models are supposed to get smarter are either they throw more NVIDIA GPUs at it, basically, and just get bigger, and that the money's there, it seems. So the money's there to spend on the GPUs. NVIDIA is producing them. Amazon and others are trying to get in the game. And so there's this real question of like, okay, given you have access to GPUs and money to spend on them, will you be able to improve the models? And nobody really knows besides OpenAI, Anthropic, and a handful of people. And so there's a lot of skepticism that that's going to be enough. So they need sort of new approaches. And then there's also this question of, given that OpenAI seemingly has like inhaled all of YouTube and like everything else on the internet, is there really more data to have, even if they're manually using companies like Scale to find more? Like, are they really going to train these models? So the wall is this building of the foundation models has that tapped out. And I mean, Max and James, how did you take Alexander's response to that question?
I mean, he was the first speaker, as you said. I would say, had I just watched him, I would have thought, oh, we're definitely hitting a wall. Like, he basically said it without saying it, as in, yes, it's actually quite a struggle to get these models to the next generation, to scale up the data. Everyone's talking to me about how we can do this, how we can clean the data, how we can create more synthetic data, this kind of stuff. Like, it was a very short case for the next generation of models, which obviously worried me because I'm very excited about the next generation.
I mean, he said it seems to be the case that we've hit a wall on pre-training. So the large cluster training on huge amounts of internet data that seems to have genuinely hit a wall, but we haven't hit a wall on progress in AI. So James, do you want to explain this progress in AI point?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's making a distinction here that maybe we have hit a wall on pre-training performance. So maybe we've run out of data, or just adding compute doesn't seem to be getting the gains that we would expect or seen in prior generations. But I think he's making the claim that that doesn't mean we're going to see diminishing model performance, let's say next year or beyond, because we will be able to improve the models with test time compute or synthetic data, like Max
talking
mentioned.
His book a little bit too, human reinforcement learning. Yes, I think some of it is happening in sort of this post-training where you built the model and you're sort of cleaning up around the edges, getting better data. And so it's sort of like, well, with Scale, we can get past the wall. But the classic foundation model approach, basically attention is all you need, throw a lot of, run a bunch of transformer models and that's it. That approach, the argument is hitting a wall.
Well, it sort of makes sense in a sort of philosophical way that the models are about as good as they're going to get in terms of giving like quick answers to questions, right? It's like we've scraped all the data on the internet and we've scraped every video on YouTube. So we've basically collected all of this sort of artifacts of human intelligence that you can, right, fairly quickly. And so these models are like about as good at quick answers as you could possibly get, right? But what everyone was saying and what you guys are sort of alluding to with this post-training concept is the idea of thinking for longer periods of time and sort of ruminating on what a good answer to a question would be, and what they call, chain of thought, and sort of iterating on that is where the next generation of gains will come, which analogizes very similarly to humans in many ways, right? Like very, very, very few humans can give like a quick answer to sort of such a broad array of questions as the current generation of models. But we obviously have Einsteins and Oppenheimers and, great literature, of course, Shakespeare's and Jane Austen, where they had years, or months and years and decades to sort of think about things and then put out these kind of finished products that moved the human race forward, right? And it kind of seems like we're hitting this wall at like, this thing can instantly give you an answer at about the maximum level of human intelligence, but where the big picture, the super intelligence, the next generation will be will be give the model a really interesting problem, let it think about it for a day or a week or a month, and then you'll get something really, really good out of it, which I think is kind of an interesting metaphor. Yeah.
Podcast listener, you get an advantage over the conference attendee in that we can skip to the end of the conference where we had sort of the rebuttal. Literally, first session, seems to have hit a pre-training wall. Last session, Dario Amodei, the Anthropic CEO, says basically we haven't hit a wall. I was among the first to document the scaling laws and the scaling of AI. Nothing I've seen in the field is out of character with what I've seen over the last 10 years or leads me to expect that things will slow down. I think one challenge with his point of view is I don't think it still seems like we need new ideas or new approaches to continue to improve things. Or
neither Alexander or Dario are saying, yeah, just throw compute and scale and this will continue to work. I just think they're both saying the same thing, which is we need to do things slightly differently than we've done them before, but we have the visibility into that we feel confident it will continue to, the AI output will continue to improve.
But Dario is more on the side of the model companies have like good ideas and sort of approach will continue to put out, the pace.
Yeah, maybe you felt like Alexander was like, I don't know. I mean, I think we have an idea of how this could improve, but we don't actually, it's not like guaranteed.
I mean, they're both talking their books in a little way. I mean, I do think Anthropic is pretty dependent on being one of the strongest model companies.
Well, I think just to wrap this discussion, maybe Ali Goetze as well, because I think a big portion of his discussion was also, are we hitting this mystical wall? And he sees it from the data and the infrastructure side. His take was, it's just really effing expensive to train the next generation of models. And so possibly one of the reasons we're hitting the wall is that the next order of magnitude of cost is maybe not sustainable for any company that's, even the FANG companies potentially, or certainly any company below the level of the FANG companies. So I think he was a little bit short the next generation of scaling, really driving new models. But as you said, the kind of cherry on top of the scaling wall discussion was Dario being like, no, full throttle, like we're good to go.
Then like the day after the conference, he struck a partnership with Amazon. I don't know. My sense is Databricks, has seen the progress of Facebook's Llama and basically said, oh, that's a pretty good open source model. I don't know how much we need to be building our own models. So I think his strategy has been more like, we're never going to be competitive relative to all the spending. But it seems like there are lots of signs that like the hyperscalers are going to spend to build the model as long as they see evidence that spending will produce an improvement on the trajectory we've seen so far. And that's sort of where this, it becomes like, what are they seeing? Are they seeing signs that all that spending will deliver something?